Hey everyone, this is Dr. Allison. Welcome to week 5 of strategic management. Tonight we're going to talk about what it means to get into the planning phase of strategy. We talked a lot in the course about what it means to be a strategic thinker, set vision, have really big goals, and how to do competitive analysis. And basically, when all the fundamentals of all your strategic kind of research and homework is done, it's time to start developing your plan. So tonight we're going to talk about what it means to start developing your strategic plan and also reinventing your business model. Reasons why you might need to look at transforming your business into a way to be competitive in the current environment in which your industry is in. So let's get started with tonight's lecture. So there are 5 reasons why you may consider as a business to reinvent your business model. The first reason could be for customer acquisition and retention efforts. It's the opportunity to address through disruptive innovation the needs of large groups of potential customers who are shut out of market entirely because existing solutions are too expensive or complicated for them. It's all about acquiring and obtaining new customers towards your business. Or you could have lost customers to a competitor just because of the fact you weren't competitive and had an innovative business model. So you have to find ways to keep your customers coming back to you. And that's always looking for those strategic things we talk about as differentiated or unique, value proposition that they can't get anywhere else. That's the way you acquire new customers and retain them. A lot of companies focus on customer acquisition and to grow their consumer base, but they at times forget that just because you have them in your market, in your business, doesn't mean they're going to stay there forever. Remember that the power of the buyer, the consumer, is very forceful for some companies. It can be very high if you don't have a business model that can keep them retained and interested in coming back to you. That's one reason why a business could reinvent themselves. The second is technological advancement. It's the opportunity to capitalize on a brand new technology by wrapping a new business model around it, or the opportunity to leverage a tested technology by bringing it to a whole new market. So there could be an opportunity to really, with technology advancing the way we do business now, bring a new technology to the market that provides a very, unique and differentiated service to your consumers. This could happen through invention of your own technology or acquiring a new technology from another company. A lot of the times, businesses partner with other technology providers because the technology provider has a great, invention software, but they don't know where to use it. And so they look for a company that's established that has a great business model to be partners and to therefore go out to the market with a new technology that can really, and provide a great service to consumers. The third reason why you might consider reinventing your business model is because of commoditization or filling a consumer need. At times, there could just be a direct problem in the current market that you have a solution for, or you can invent a solution for. It can be something that's currently within your current product portfolio, or something similar that you can do and invent and make something different and unique, and to better the lives of your consumers. Consumer needs change all the time, so it's very important for a business to be on top of what the consumers are saying, what they need, and also what they want. And if you're innovative, you can find ways to reinvent your business model to find the needs of your consumers. Number 4 is competitive differentiation. The need to fend off low-end disruptors. So really what this means is that you need to reinvent your business model to make sure you're still very competitive in the market, that you're not losing sight of what your competition is doing, that you make sure you are, especially if you're an established large business, you always have mechanisms to ward off those kind of startups that may try to disrupt your business. You need to be playing as much offense as you are defense. It's very important to make sure that as a business, you don't always get comfortable in what you're doing. You always have to find ways to be unique and strategic. Number 5 are just other competitive factors. The need to respond to a shifting basis of competition. And that's all about the 5 forces and the other ways we analyze competition that we talked about. You may just need to reinvent your business model because of the forces of your competition, just to make sure you are on par with them and competitive. So, other considerations on developing a new business model. Companies should not pursue business model reinvention unless they are confident that the opportunity is large enough to warrant the effort. So, a company should not just go out there and start saying they're going to reinvent and transform themselves into a new business if it's not going to be large enough in scale for them to first capitalize on and make a good ROI. There's no reason to waste your time as a business if your new business venture or opportunity is not going to get you anywhere and doesn't really make you, profitable or obtains a KPI that you're looking for. So again, make sure it's large enough in scale and you're confident enough that you can obtain it. There's no point in instituting a new business model unless it's only new to the company, but in some way new or game changing to the industry or market. So it can't just be new for your company. It has to be something that you're going to implement in your current industry that's going to be game changing and changes the landscape of the industry. If you go and reinvent your business model, but it has no impact on your industry and on the competition, it's not really going to be as strategic nor may be as successful as one may think. The third bullet point, creating a new model for a new business does not mean the current model is threatened or should be changed. What this means is maybe you're doing something to augment your current business model. Reinventing your business model or developing a new one isn't always transforming what you're currently doing. Again, we talked about core ideology and core capabilities. Perhaps a new business model is just a extension or some type of augmentation of what you're currently doing, and that's okay too. A new model often reinforces and complements the core business. As I just said, a business model could have multiple different, types of business that they're doing, and that's okay as long as you're still sticking to your core business. As long as your core business you feel is still successful and competitive. So when you're looking at your business and you're a leader in your company, or you're just part of a leadership group that can help understand how to transform your company, and you're looking at your current business, there are four key questions you must consider. Can you nail the job with a focused, compelling customer value proposition? At the end of the day, if you're looking to reinvent your business model and change the path of your company, is it going to provide a compelling customer value proposition? Is it not only going to be good for your company, but also good for your customer? And will it be sustainable long term? Will it just provide a short win or a long term win? Most of the time, you want long term gains from your reshifting of your business model. The second question to consider is, can you devise a model in which all of the elements, the customer value proposition, the profit formula, the key resources, and the key processes, all of these work together to get the job done in the most efficient way? So you first need to identify what is the customer value proposition? What is the value I'm bringing to my customer with this reinvention of the business model? Does the profit formula within my company make sense? If I go forward with this business model, and we'll talk more about profit formula here shortly, will I be profitable and will it follow the math basically along the way that I've defined for this business model? Do I have the key resources and the key processes? Do I have the right people, technology in place, or do I need to invest into new people or technology? And do I have the key processes in place? Do I have those established now, or do I need to reinvent processes to establish a new path forward to reinvent my business model? The third question, can you create a new business development process unfettered by the often negative influences of your core business? What this means is, can you develop a business process that can ward off those negative influences, those barriers, those obstacles? Now, there are going to be challenges and obstacles. Don't get me wrong. When you develop your strategic plan, when you start looking at in ways to move forward into a new business model, there will be challenges along the way. But can you develop a process to work through them intelligently, with calculated risks, with the right resources to work through barriers? So you almost have to identify what are going to be the variables and barriers that are going to exist and be in the way. Some will come up, you may not be prepared for them, but when you do your due diligence and your research, you'll understand what your barriers are going to be and how to work through them. And the last question, as we said before, will the new business model disrupt competitors? Will what I'm doing in this reinvention of this business model, will this new strategic plan disrupt the competition? And it's only worth doing if you're going to disrupt your competition and to make a new, unique strategic position in your market. So, as described in the article you read, these are the elements of a successful business model. Once again, the customer value proposition. This is very, very important. First off, when you identify your customer value proposition, you need to understand your target customer, a real customer who needs to get a real job done. Who is your customer? And that may be pretty straightforward for some businesses, but sometimes it's not. So, who is your target customer in this business model? Are you going after new customers? Are you trying to retain your current customers while also trying to acquire new ones? Are you going after a whole new segment or market? Truly understand for this new business model who is your target customer. The job to be done, it solves an important problem or fulfill an important needs for the target customer. These go hand in hand. At the end of the day, any business model or thing that you're doing with your strategy plan is to solve an important problem or fulfill a need for a target consumer. And what is the offering? This is the actual product or service that solves the problem or fulfills the need. These seem pretty straightforward, but at times can be very challenging for some businesses, especially if you're starting with an invention. You may say, this is a great thing, but who needs it? Or it's the other way around. You identify a problem based on market research that consumers are having, but you don't know the offering yet. You don't know how to solve that problem. That could be even harder. But you have to have those identified before you can move forward and implement a new business model. Then you have to understand how are you going to be profitable. Any business model, you have to what? Make money and be profitable. So understand your revenue model, your top line sales. How much money can be generated? Every business needs to understand this. Forecast your sales. What is the cost structure? What are all the costs associated? The direct costs, the indirect costs, the economies of scale. What are the costs to buy materials? What are the costs to buy products? What is the cost of technology? How much overhead or resources or employees do I have to hire to implement this? And at the end of the day, what is my net margin? Once I take all the sales and costs involved, and you take all those things, your financial analyst especially will be in charge of where's my margin? Where's my profit? And then your resource velocity. How long will it take to reach my targets? Is it going to take 2 years to be profitable? Is it 3 years? You have to outline that strategically and truly have a good financial plan to back up your new business model. As we said before, too, you have to have key resources in place. People, technology, and processes are the key things I keep talking about in this class. When it comes to resources, we know about people, what type of employees, the technology to implement your plan. What equipment do you need, especially if it's a operational element? Information and channels. Who are your partners? What sales channels are you going after? What sales channels or what channels of distribution are you working on? That kind of thing. What other partnerships, alliances do you need to have as well? Do you need to have a certain partnership, a brokerage, somebody to help you get your product to market, that kind of thing. When it comes to processes, how are you going to get the job done? Everything from design, product development, sourcing, manufacturing, marketing, hiring, training, IT, suppliers, and you go on and on for a very long time. All the key components. How is that mechanism? How is the machine going to work together in all the different departments? All that has to be identified, especially if you're doing something really brand new for your company. How do you take your current resources and redefine those processes to make your successful business model work? All of these are the key components of a successful business model, and it's very important that's understood. Not one of these can be broken or not fully established before you go forward with a business model. All of these have to be understood from the very beginning before it's executed and developing a strategic plan. So when you're developing a strategic plan, this is the core of it. These are the four elements, and within that, the key elements you have to understand and identify before you can execute your plan. This is building your team. This is building the game plan. This is building the tools and resources to go forward before you execute. So here's an example of reinventing the business model. And this is Hilti. This came from your textbook reading. Hilti sidesteps commoditization. So they went forward with a reinvention of their business model based on commoditizing and finding a need for their customers. Hilti is capitalizing on a game-changing opportunity to increase profitability by turning products into a service. Rather than sell tools at lower and lower prices, it's selling a just the tool you need when you need it, no repair or storage hassles service. Such a radical change in customer value proposition required a shift in all parts of its business model. So this company decided to say, you know what, instead of just selling our name brand products on the shelf at certain distribution stores or stores, let's actually take it a step further and provide a service to our consumers. So a traditional power tool company, right? They would just have their products on the shelf, and they would have sales of industrial and professional power tools and accessories. They had low margins and high inventory turnover. Their distribution channel was low cost manufacturing plants and in developing countries, with research and development. Basically, they just had a commodity. They had a product like anybody else on the shelf without a service attached to it. It was up to the consumer to understand what the tool was for, why they needed it, so they could just take it home or to their business and just use it. But then they changed their thing. They changed their mind. They wanted to provide an actual fleet management service. So from the traditional sense of just having it on the shelf and selling it, they changed their customer value proposition to leasing a comprehensive fleet of tools to increase contractors' on-site productivity. So instead of having contractors or laborers go to the shelf and buy the products, they actually provide contract work, and they would provide the tools in mass to on-site locations, which turned them into more of a leasing of the tool service besides buying them. When you lease your products too, you get higher profit. Instead of having the products on the shelf being bought B2C, they potentially went to a B2B environment and had a profit formula where they're making a lot more margin based on leasing their products. And they had a much better direct sales approach. Actually got account reps involved. Instead of selling the products and have them going to a shelf on a retail store, they'd actually have sales reps go out, account managers, and do business to business type relationships and can get highly valuable contracts on projects to make a profit. So these resources change the landscape of their business. So this is an example of reinventing a business model from a product based business to a service based business. The next part of developing a strategic plan is understanding your capabilities. And if you read chapter 7 of the Strategist Toolkit textbook, it's all about conducting a capabilities analysis. What this does is helps businesses clarify the major set of activities, skills, and resources that drive value to consumers. So, when you're looking at reinventing your business model, one thing you have to do is understand what are you capable of to move forward with that new business model or strategic plan. So, you have to understand your capabilities. It's used when a business is starting their formulation of strategy setting to see what strategic options are feasible, broadening the SWOT analysis. So again, I've said many times in this class, a SWOT analysis is a starting place. It's very broad in nature and isn't a one-stop shop solution to understanding your company, its opportunities and threats. So a capabilities analysis is a next step analysis you can take from your SWOT. It identifies not just what is tangible for a company, but also what is intangible and to make an additional strategic effort. A capabilities analysis will tell you this is definitely doable, but also what is almost impossible, but could be done if you pivot your direction and your resources in the right direction. Successful companies are often those that develop strategies that align their capabilities with their plans for external positioning in the market. Again, those companies that can develop strategies that align their current capabilities. What are you good at? Your core competencies to make an impact in the market from a strategic perspective in the market externally. Strategies can only be successful if it can only be executed. That's a theme for the entire class. Strategies can only be successful only if it can be executed. Your plan has to make sense. You have to do your due diligence and your research. You can only execute a strategy if it's thoroughly thought out and planned. One thing you do also is in this capabilities analysis is build a value chain. So the first step is to build that value chain and to identify the key departments and strengths of your business. So before pursuing a strategic initiative, you need to develop your business value chain by identifying the key clusters that contribute to the endpoint of customer value proposition on the product or service. That value chain is basically from beginning to end before you hit the market with your service or product that provides that customer value proposition. What is it that you do from beginning to end that is good in your business model today? So the example could be how you source products and identify activities for supply. Then it's also you have a great research and development for new products and ideas, new innovation. Then you actually produce and operate, your product that you want to bring to market. You have a great way of producing and distributing your products to the market. You have a great sales channel and distribution model as well to get that product to market in a timely fashion with a great sales force to sell it in to your, companies or retailers or businesses. And after that, though, is service and support. You don't just forget about your customer and let them just, take that product home or experience that service without some type of customer service phone number to call or technical support to help them with their products. A value chain is taking care of the customer before the sale, at the sale, and after the sale. And that's one thing I keep telling my employees, especially in marketing. Our job is to make sure that products and the value that we bring to consumers is before the sale, at the sale, and after the sale. Here's an example of an Apple value chain for their supply chain. Apple, of course, we talk about a lot in this class, is a company that obviously does really well for their customers and their customer value proposition. First, if you look at how they do their supply chain, they source from all over the world, from the United States to China, other Asian countries, and Europe. But they do most of their manufacturing once they source their raw materials in China. Then they distribute their products in warehouses via UPS and FedEx, with a main warehouse facility in Elk Grove, California. The UPS and FedEx locations, they'll serve their online stores, which is a very strategic thing to do. If they can find intermediate warehouses via UPS and FedEx, there's all types of those locations all over the country in regional locations. They can distribute their products faster online to different consumers throughout the country in a very timely fashion. But for their retail stores and physical store presence, they have one facility in Elk Grove, California that distributes their products to all of their kind of wholesale networks, retail stores, or direct sales force. And at the end of their value chain, they have a great return policy and trading program and recycle reuse program. So they kind of do this flow from sourcing, manufacturing, warehousing, distribution, and at the end of the day, at the very back end of it for their consumer, if needed, a warranty and return program to take care of their customer. By the way, a lot of companies can have more than one value chain. It depends if they're in the business of doing multiple different types of business models. For Apple, they're also in the business model of product development and creating products. So they start with a research and development team. They're always doing research and development of new technologies or acquiring and patenting new technology innovation to keep Apple at the forefront of technology. Then they do a lot of concept testing. They take those products and conduct market research and identify ways to, and enhance the quality of their products. So they're always testing and understanding ways to make their products more efficient and smarter. Then they have a pre-launch phase, right? This is where they actually take the product development to the next level. And actually, once they identify a technology they want to move forward with, they test it out. They take it out there. They manage their material costs. They determine their quantity that they're going to launch with, and really, at the end of the day, take those strategic steps to pre-plan before they go to market. Then they launch the product, right? They make a demand forecast for up the first 150 days. They forecast how much demand they think they're going to get in their market based on the new technology and their sales history, and fully, map out their roadmap for their launch. Once the first quarter hits and quarterly after that, they look at their new technology sales, call it the new iPhone. They look at the sales, they look at their inventory, and it is really hard for Apple always to forecast their demand. They usually don't forecast enough, and there's a lot of retailers out there who are sold out of their products for a certain period of time. But there's sometimes too that they overcommit and they have to adjust to that to make sure they don't keep buying more supply for a low demand. And that's what it's all about. You have to check in and evaluate your performance regularly. So the next part of your capabilities analysis after you identify your value chain is isolate a core set of capabilities. Capabilities are more than just activities in the value chain. They are a combination of three elements that drive overall value for consumers. And as I keep saying, they're people, processes, and technology. People are the process owners. You need to identify in your strategic plan who's the owner of what process. It is at times I've worked for places where it can be confusing who owns this process. You don't want to duplicate efforts and waste resource time. You have to have a clear identification of roles and responsibilities. Also, the execution of processes impacting cycle production time, quality defects, and costs. People are in charge of making sure that they're working smart, they're not wasting time, and they're in charge of the quality and cost control. And people are also only ones that have the knowledge and skills to execute the business strategies. Now, you may use technology, you may use robots, you may use some other artificial intelligence to implement your strategy, but there is definitely people behind it, though. People are always going to be the ones in charge of making sure things happen and are also accountable. Processes. represent the core knowledge of the business, standardization of how work is conducted, and the alignment of goals and results. You have to understand basically at the end of the day, are all the key components working together? Is the entire linkage between the value chain working and every component of that, every process identified? Technology. Is your technology operational, transformational, relational, and the technology impact on how processes and people conduct the work is needed? So you have to understand, is your technology up to date? Is it being maximized and optimized? Or do you need to invest into new technology processes to really implement your strategy? The third step of developing your strategic plan is internal alignment and external alignment. Internal alignment is the core capabilities identified of people, process, and technology. So internally, you have to align that you have the right, once you do all that capabilities analysis, you have the right people in place, the right processes in place, and the right technology. You cannot move forward if any one of those three components are not ready to go. External alignment is the customer value proposition. Again, you have to have your customer value proposition identified before you implement your strategy. Companies need to ensure that their internal capabilities and work streams meet the value needs of consumers. Is everything you're doing from the capabilities perspective of the people, the processes, and technology, do all those have the forefront of the value proposition in mind when conducting your strategic plan? If none of these are aligned or not aligned, then there is or will be an issue challenge with executing the strategic initiative. There will be challenges with any strategic initiative, but if any one of those three are not firmly mapped out at the beginning, you're going to have an issue down the road. Make sure your capabilities continue to drive towards your customer value proposition. At the launch phase or execution, very beginning execution phase of your strategy, yes, if you have it done correctly, you have people, processes, and technology in place. But that doesn't mean you can't improve. It's called continuous improvement and pivot your strategic process or plan to make sure it's still obtaining the value proposition for your customers. So the last step in developing a core capabilities analysis and in general all components of a strategic plan is ensuring it's sustainable. Sustainable meaning that it's long term in nature, that all your processes, all your resources identified, the technology you're going to use, everything you're going to do to implement your plan is long term in nature and can also keep up with the value of your consumers and your customer value proposition. You have to make sure that it's not going to be short term in nature, that no component of your resources, people, processes, or technology is going to inhibit you from fully rolling out your strategic plan. It must be able to have all core capabilities in place to fully execute your plan to its fullest potential. And one thing you can do is turn to page 60 of your strategist toolkit of a textbook for your core capabilities analysis template, which you can use throughout the course if you like in your projects that you work on. You'll do this as part of your project, I believe in project 2 and project 3. So make sure you understand what that means. That is it for this week. Thanks for your time in reviewing this, and I look forward to seeing you in class soon. Have a great night.